The purging of DEI from government and corporate America is testing their commitments to diversity. Many companies and public institutions are scrapping programs and canceling events or scrubbing websites, but there are also groups finding ways to defy the trend. This week, actor and entrepreneur Malik Yoba weighed in with an idea that got a lot of attention when he shared a video that started with this statement.
I decided that I'm no longer a black man, no longer a person of color, BIPOC, none of that. What I am is a non-white man. And I think we should all just start calling ourselves non-white.
Now, the video goes on from there, but outlets have grabbed onto the headline, Malik Yoba no longer identifies as black. There was actually one that just started with the word blasphemy. People have missed his real purpose for this post, and Malik Yoba is with us now to explain. Malik, good morning to you.
Good morning, brother.
There were some people who, they thought you were being facetious. Some people thought it was sarcasm. Some people really took it as sincerity. What were you trying to say in that post?
I wasn't trying to. Your show's called First of All, so I'm going to start with First of All. Thank you. First of all, I was on my way to a meeting, and it was just a stream of consciousness. It really wasn't that deep for me, other than, this thought that occurred to me the night before, we are living in a world where in real time, our history is being wiped away in front of us. And
he's absolutely right. It is being erased right in front of our eyes. But I don't see how not identifying as a black man is going to help. That's relinquishing the history and whatever it is you feel you were or have been called up to this point, to just because DEI policies have changed in the United States of America. No matter where you live in the world, you are still who you are. You're still a black man, a descendant of slaves. But to allow Donald Trump to knock you off of that, and then you still cry that we're losing our history, it's being changed and taken away from us as we speak, is a lot of truth to that. But you're participating in that change by relinquishing your spot and not standing strong. And no matter what the policies are, you still black. It just draws a clearer contrast between us and the United States government, that they would even have policies that harm us. But the policies they have that benefit us the least. Let's remind ourselves of that. But he appeared to be kind of frustrated when making that statement. But it also seems a little irresponsible to be a actor who been on the scene for quite a while, who should know his influence, and not just get on Instagrams and post things like that when people really do listen to actors and stars and are influenced by them, unfortunately. But he's trying to back away because obviously there was some backlash, so he feels a little uncomfortable about it, and he should have just been a little more responsible in the beginning and brought that conversation up around his friends when they're having shots of tequila or something, and it's a more of a social environment as opposed to putting it out there. And if you do put it out on your platform, then own it. Don't put it out and then try to walk it back and be like, oh, well, they trying to take our history. Well, if they are, you're not doing anything to combat it by changing yourself from being whatever you called yourself yesterday to being non-white or I'm not black in order to fit into whatever it is you're trying to do. I don't understand it, but I just hope that a lot of people are look at these news programs and discern what's really being done here in a lot of cases. I don't know what kind of backlash he got or what kind of hookup he got with this network, but they're trying to redeem him and give him an opportunity to let people know, hey, I'm not, tripping like that, but let people know that this is what I meant. And it's nice to be able to rethink and rebroadcast a better answer, especially if you were just coming off the top of your head. That's a nice thing to be able to do as well. Everybody don't get that shot, but Malik Yoba, Just blurting out something like that shouldn't change the way black men feel in this country as far as relinquishing the fact that we're going to call ourselves black men anymore, just so that we can qualify for government programs or whatever the heck is going on there. I don't understand it.
All of the key words, black and BIPOC and all those things, those are the words that we're told that are searched on using algorithms and AI to identify why Jackie Robinson's removed from the Department of Defense.
Well, he was removed from the Department of Defense, and a lot of other things under AI is happening that a lot of people don't talk about, because AI is set up to be racial because it is set up by white people who run this country. Every question has to be answered. Every area has to be looked into, and there's no way that you can educate an AI program or develop it without it thinking like you do. And if you think racist, your AI program is going to be as racist as you are. And that's why we're running into these problems with AI, not intending to delete historical people and not meaning to use some of the terms that it uses, but it's just out of the fact that it can only do what it's been taught. At some point, it will pass human intelligence, and maybe some of this stuff will be ironed out, or maybe it'll be baked into it forever. But it's only because it's a racist country and a racist agenda and a racist program teaching AI what AI is to become. And it cannot be or reach its full potential, according to the United States government, unless it is biased against black people. It has to be, because they are.
And so it was a call to action for diversity. It's about all diverse people who don't identify as these labels that have been placed upon us, because none of us are white or black or any of that, right? I was raised to believe we're all human.
And that's another problem with black people who teach their children to just be the most loving, sweet little angels in the world by disarming them and telling them you're not black or white, you're a human. But then when you go out into the world and other people don't see you as a human, they see you as black or white, depending on which one you are. So it's kind of harmful to a child to go out there and not understand you are black, you have this to be proud of, you're white, you have this to be proud of. This is what your ancestors did. This is what your life in the United States has been since you arrived, or when your parents or ancestors brought you here. It's nothing wrong with teaching a kid things to be proud of, things to want to know more about, things so that they can understand who they are and how they came to be, especially when you're in a position like a lot of black kids are, where our parents are telling us you can be anything you want and you can do this and you can do that, and none of that is not true. None of that should not be spoken to the child, but it should be put into context, and more education should be given so that when you tell that child that, he has to understand it's going to be quite a challenge and an undertaking for him to do a lot of things in this life and be positive and stay positive for the entirety of his life. He's going to have to really dig deep and be focused and disciplined and all of those things. And it's nothing at all wrong with that. But he shouldn't have to be any more disciplined or driven than anybody else. He should be as driven or disciplined as your normal everyday person on their way up the ladder of life. But that's not the way it works. And we end up having black guys get on and ask us to do and say things that no one else is even thinking about. But then we're also a part of a party who tells us that, for the most part, the Democrats, that there's no racism and America is not fundamentally racist and all of that. But they got all these policies that obviously are being exposed because they're being taken away. If the country's not fundamentally racist only because DEI policies exist, then the country is fundamentally racist. All those policies should be able to go away, and no one's lives should change because the country, according to both parties, is not fundamentally racist.
And that's the work I've done my entire life around bringing people together of diverse backgrounds to work together, to find agency, to use their voice. And so for me, it's troubling. There's a lot of people hurting. I have a lot of friends that work in the federal government, people who are contract workers, USAID, EPA, MBDA, HHS. And So it was an opportunity that I did not post on Instagram to go viral. You can't control.
Yeah, but his feelings, he was like caught up in his feelings. He's got friends who have USAID contracts and a lot of other contracts with the government. So it's hitting home for him to see these contracts being canceled by this administration. But I'm one of the people who just feel that why should these children in Africa be eating off the taxpayers' money in the United States of America, and then corporations from the United States are allowed to go into these areas and get the true resources out of their land or out of their country and profit off of it, but the kids are getting, like I say, this little bowl of mush to eat, and all this is added up into millions and billions of dollars because we're really paying these contractors and paying the money to get to these kids. It's just ridiculous, and I'm against it totally because it's a scam. And United States companies over there that are taking the resources out of their land, that should be the U.S. aid. They should be the ones taking care of those people. But if the land that these people are starving on this African continent, starving, why are all these European and Western countries over there sucking the resources out of the land while these people sitting by starving? It makes no sense. They should be among the richest in the world based on the land that they live on. And it's just by happenstance. It just is what it is. What if all the people in Europe had to go back to Europe and that was it? You had to cut your ties in Africa. You just did. Do you realize what that would do to them? Those governments and those economies would crash immediately. So this country has all these starving people and all this USA going over there, and all these folks in the United States benefiting from it because they know how to play the game and they know how to get in there and get involved in companies that provide food and shipping companies and clothing and whatever else they're doing. But they're getting their money off the top, and they're living in mansions, and these kids are over here just being fed and living in some of the richest soil in the world, and they have to rely on the United States to come over there and in their corporations and suck the resources out, and then a double whammy is tricking the taxpayers into supporting that. That's just terrible, and it should be spoken more clearly and for what it is. It's fraud. It's exactly what it is. It's just there to sustain the businesses and the companies that get these contracts. It has nothing to do with the kids over there starving, and it has to do with the look that you're doing something while you're stealing from those people. That's what it comes down to.
Control that, but clearly it struck a chord.
Yeah, it struck a chord, and what we saw from some of the comments on not just your post, but other outlets that carried it, there was a degree of make them say it, right? That people attach themselves to beyond your statement about being a non-white person. Make them say it. Right. And we featured here some of those keywords.
What in the world would ever make a black man say, I'm non-white and I'm not black, I'm just a human? I mean, what would make you say that? The only thing that would drive you to that is that saying you're black must be harmful. It must be painful. It must not be beneficial. It must be some horrible shit that you don't want to attach yourself to. So you come up with something else instead of doubling down on what you are and getting with other black people and getting with white people, if you know any, and letting them know you are black and why you're black and why you should be called black and respected. And if the government has policies that go against black people, let's not make their policies okay by changing chameleon into something else. No, let's stay who we are and figure out why these policies harm us if they do.
Yeah, call a thing a thing. You know, I mean, we live in a world where in real time, you know, it's like the Truman Show or something, right? Like, don't believe with your eyes, right? Don't believe what your eyes are telling you, and that's troubling. Like I said, I mean, for me, like I said, my commitment has always been to how do we bring people together. Look, I'm a black man, I'm a man of African descent, right? Yoba means last of the slaves, a new generation. So I don't walk around even with a European name, right? And so my identity is this is always going to be how I identify.
Which is why it's completely ridiculous for you to be making statements on the internet that you are non-black. I mean, you're about as black as they can be. Nobody is going to mistake you for being a white man, or off-white man, or anything else. Once you start talking, and we get a good look at you. So, what is the purpose of you? Is it a way to get more government contracts? Is your construction company or development company run off government contracts, and it's frustrating you because you don't qualify for some of them anymore? I mean, is that what it is? Because if you're just venting because of that, then think about all the people who aren't Malik Yoba, who haven't had long acting careers, who had to really go to work and kind of, deal with disappointment and failure. And you sitting here whining because apparently you lost some government contracts and it's pissing you off, and some of your friends have as well. And it's like a different part of the population. And I understand that, but you can't try to justify something that is a crime in to begin with. To have these people being raped and their land being stolen the way it is, and their resources being taken out of Africa at the way they are. I mean, the batteries, the lithium batteries, all the lithium batteries in the world. If Africa shut down, we'd be in trouble as a planet. If Africa shut down on its lithium battery exports, so why isn't all of that money and all of the decisions being made? Because China, America, Russia, everybody got to get in. England, everybody got to get involved because it's a resource and it's valuable. And if you don't like it, they'll start a war with you, and they'll get it anyway. So that's just the way the world works. And then when Donald Trump comes in office and he's talking that same talk in ways you've never heard it, because it's not the continent of Africa that they're talking about possibly doing things to that don't sound fair. It's Canada and it's Mexico and it's the European Union over there and all of that, and NATO. Now all of a sudden people are looking at Trump like he's a crazy man, because he's talking about doing what they do to people in Africa all the time, through treaties and through military force. But when they talk about it in a sense of people who aren't African or African American or black or former slaves or the people on the planet who they resent the most, then it's okay. It's okay to go over there and do that stuff. Just don't be doing that to Canadians. Don't be doing that to Mexicans either. Those are our friends. But you can, if Mexico had the resources that Africa had, we'd probably find a diplomatic way to get them out, as opposed to just exploiting the whole continent the way it has been. Just as far back as governments have been powerful enough to exploit. And as long as they can militarily overtake, they found a way to make it happen. And it's just a sad thing. And the fact that any black people, especially an actor, somebody who's lived a little life, who knows a little bit more about having things and how things work than most of us do, and him waving a white flag and willing to relinquish his race and what he's been being called, publicly and legally, I guess, in these United States, he's willing to let all that go because of what? Because it's a horrible thing to be influenced or led by people who are that weak and that fragile. And he is not a good example of a black man we need to be listening to if he's still at this day and age and having, what is he, about 58, 59 years old. He should have his feet more in solid ground about who he is and find a different way to combat that, as opposed to changing who you are. Make them look at you for who you really are. Be who you are and continue to be that person without getting on the internet on your platform and having tantrums that you have to walk back.
But beyond skin tone or someone's label, what my heart is about is how do we build people, places, and things? And that's actually the slogan of Yoba Development, right? Both my real estate development company as well as our foundation. So our commitment is builder of people, places, and things, right? We do things. We have an activation coming up called Flipping the Hood, which you can go to our website, yobadevelopment.com, and get more information.
And just real quick, whenever people are doing nonprofits, and I mean, it is a nonprofit and it probably has some benefits, but I just don't know why none of these nonprofits ever really hit it out of the park. Are they set up that way? I mean, how many people have ever set up a nonprofit and gotten their funding through the United States government and really, really like transformed an entire community or as I say, a race of people, us? Up another peg, moved it, really done. How can you still be in last place? And because some of these nonprofits aren't really doing what they say they're doing, they're hurt and harmed right now because they're being exposed. Nothing's going to change for the most part. But the unfortunate thing is that there were people probably relying on meals through some of these programs. And there were probably, because we've been put in a place where that's where we've been directed to go and to rely on and to need. And it shouldn't be that way. Why in the world are people who have been in this country as long as we have been still relying on the United States government to eat, still relying on these voucher programs and grant programs and all these fucking programs that the United States government has, instead of having it in a way where we don't have to go keep checking our mailbox a few times a month for a check, so that we know that the money is being derived from our own blood, sweat, and tears, and that we're actually getting paid it and not being cheated or going another route. And then by the time it get back to us, it's not a lot of money. And it's not right to have been stifled post 1865 to this date and be okay about it, to the point of where people are saying stuff like this. That's ridiculous. Don't change who you are. Make them change how they look at you and how they treat you.
But it's about how do we knowledge transfer so that everybody can win. I've never seen a championship team. If we're the greatest country in the world, nobody should be on the bench.
You know, we had a conversation on Thursday about this, and now knowing more about your childhood, your father, your family connections, the idea that you would one day grow up to be a man who says, I'm no longer a black man, just doesn't make sense. And a lot of people don't have that context, though.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And, but I think people's response, right, really speaks to how they're feeling, right? How dare you? You're someone that we look to for leadership, right? I've been in the public eye for 3 decades. And, I'm here, funny enough, in Connecticut at a fan at 90s Con with the Cool Runnings cast, right? And even if you think about that movie, right, we were the non-white guys, right, in the Olympics trying to get a goal. And so whether it's New York Undercover, right, I was the first, Michael DiLorenzo and I, the first black and Latino, like on a 1-hour drama in the history of television in 1994, right? And so 3 years before I was born, you couldn't vote, right? So we were raised to leave the world better than it was when we found it.
And that's another fault of our parents. They didn't know that, and that's what was instilled in us, to leave everything better than we found it. If we borrowed someone's car and you were taught right and were a responsible person, you brought that car back with more gas than it had when you took it. If you're in somebody's home and you need a room or whatever to stand, you want to leave, better than you left it, washing their dishes, helping them keep their house up. That's totally the way we're raised, which might contribute to the situations that we're in. It might be why we're where we are, because we don't put ourselves first. Maybe if we could make ourselves leave this earth in a better place than we came into it, if that was what we thought, it'd probably be a little more beneficial to us, a little more helpful, I'm sorry. A lot of people don't get that part. They are so into the mentality of helping others to the point of it harms yourself. You have to put yourself first. You just have to. And then you can help so many more people than if you don't take care of yourself first. Then you can't help anybody, including yourself.
And so There's a lot of context. I shared with you how we grew up with the Shabazz family. I learned to ride a bike in Malcolm X's driveway. Grew up, my parents were friends. And so there is a lot of context that people don't know because you only see the actor and you don't really pay attention to the work that I've been doing for 40 plus years. You know, we talked on the phone the other day. I visited, you know, the Montgomery, the bus station that was just up for sale, right, in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah.
In 1988, I went on the 25th anniversary of the Freedom Rides. I literally, with 150 young people, took buses from New York to Neshoba County, Mississippi, and I was a 20-year-old wearing the SNCC uniform, wearing my white T-shirt and my overalls and my glasses, identifying with this history as a person born in 1967.
Yeah.
And so I think we all have a responsibility to, democracy is a work in progress. And we're watching people be afraid, cower, get defensive. And all I'm interested in, how do we come together, people of good conscience, right? Come together, do your part to make sure that democracy works, which includes making sure that we are registered to vote, that we go out there, that we encourage the apathetic folk.
See, they always get back to the vote. He's trying to, even though whatever it is he's frustrated and mad about, he's still willing to go back and dig back in that same well again and put that party back in power again to do nothing for us. What if we already know that they can't win? Their policies are unpopular. Everything they've done for us has kept us in the last place. And he's on there still a parting shot and advocating, because he is not advocating for the Republican Party, and I don't blame him, but he's not advocating for us, because we're trying to leave the world better than we found it instead of leaving ourselves better than we found. With some things for our grandchildren to have that we didn't have, and things of wealth and things of stability and things of comfort, so that they don't have to struggle their whole lives and ever touch homelessness. No black person in this country should ever see a street or a night out on the street being homeless. That's absolutely unacceptable.
People that feel like they have no connection. Everything is political, even when we are trying to be political, and including an IG post.
We're certainly going to get into some of that in our next segment, Lisa France, and how people, the resistance, as it's called, is looking different this time around for some. Malik Yoba, I appreciate the conversation. You got a lot of attention this week, and the clarity is important.
Hopefully this clears some things up for some folks.
All right. Thank you.
It's just not in in the media. I'm trying to say this right. In the media, there's not enough straight black men. LGBTQ plus black men are overrepresented. And I'm starting to think LGBTQ plus men in general are, but for sure are black men. And that's a problem, because the thought process and the thinking and the position in the community is different. Just because you might be a black man, you know, if you're LGBTQ plus, you are not gonna strengthen our race with that dual residency, as I like to call it. But you absolutely have to understand, whether you agree with it or not, that you are black first. That is the reason and the primary discrimination that you will feel. The LGBT plus, that comes later on, after, you know, you begin to meet people, bond with coworkers, and let people into your personal life, which is a personal choice. If you go to work and keep a lot of that out of there, nobody will know what your sexuality is. They can assume, but until you forfeit. I mean, I'm a straight man with a wife and a family, and I've never went to work and talked about my relationship and what my kids are going through and what me and my wife are going through, or what I've gone through in my life, because I don't ever want to be at work and be vulnerable to people talking behind my back about things that I gave them. The information and the bullets I gave them would be the things that pissed me off. So I've never been a person to do that in the workplace, and just keep it cordial and friendly and get along with everybody without having to go too much into my past and my history in the workplace, because that's the most inappropriate place to do that. And That's just the way I was raised and the way I feel. I feel bad for Malik Yoba though, because I would think that a black man in his late 50s would be a little more grounded and not just bounce around because some uh, white dude gets in the White House and changes a couple of uh, things, knocks down some departments that you might have relied on financially. Some of us might rely on some of the other stuff that he's going to do financially and economically. But there's no reason for us to fold. Not at all. We still got to stand strong and figure a way through this and not change ourselves to accommodate them, because we already know that they ain't going to accept us no matter how we come. So the best thing we can do is come consistently, and then we can go from there. And with that, folks, like, comment, share, and please subscribe. We'll see you on the next episode of Black Popcorn. If you made it this far, then hopefully you enjoyed the video. I really would appreciate and do appreciate the support. Hit the subscribe button, and thank you for being a part of the Black Popcorn community.